Hello, everyone. Excited for today's episode of People Who Inspire. I have a very esteemed guest that we are going to have a conversation with. So I'm really excited. And I want to say that season two is officially live. And this is your host, Prince. And we're going to talk today about how to advance your career and how to build a formidable career path. And my guest is the very an erudite, as I always choose to call him. And he's someone who inspires a lot of confidence as far as your career is concerned. So today I'm going to our very esteemed guest, Kojo Abaka Anaman. He wears a lot of hats. He's a pharmacist, he's a career coach, he's a professional development expert. He's also into programming, business analytics. So today we are going to have a very exciting time. And thank you, each and every one of you, for joining this episode. It's the first episode of season two of People Who Inspire. So, Joel, how are you? Welcome to People Who Inspire. Can you hear me, Joel? Hello, can you hear me? Okay, so I think Joel is having some connection issues, but for those of you who have joined, we have already started the season two of People Who Inspire. And as many of you already know, the rationale behind People Who Inspire is to basically get people like Joel. Oh, so Joel, you're back. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, the power. Yeah, not the power.
Okay,
The internet is stripping. It's raining. So, apologies,
okay,
sincere
okay.
apologies for that. I know I missed the introduction.
No problem.
Yeah,
No problem. I'll do it again. No problem. So, for those of you who are joining us, as I said, today is going to be very auspicious, and having someone like Joel, who is the founder of Career Wheel, and mostly his focus has been over the past couple of years to develop professionals, especially as far as your career is concerned. So, if you're watching us today on People Who Inspire, definitely just know that your career path is of prime importance to Joel and to myself. We are going to get to know Joel a bit more, what his journey has been so far. And then also, definitely, we're going to talk about how to build a formidable career path. So, yes, if you are joining me today, it's going to be an exciting time. Like I said, Joel wears a lot of hats, and today we are going to try to demystify the person called Joel. So, Joel, welcome to People Who Inspire.
thank you so much, Prince, for the introduction. And I must say that you also inspire me a lot. Like since 2016, the inspiration has been there. And, I mean, we go way back, right? Right from big days, PNG, and all of that. And I'm really excited to be here. I mean, this is the first episode of the season two of People Who Inspire. So I'm really honored that you are giving me your audience to also share my unique perspectives about what building a career path is. So I'm eager to share more and then learn more from the audience as well as the comments come in. Thank you so much.
Sure, Joel. Thank you also for making time for us. So, I mean, to start the whole conversation, and as you know, this is a very informal conversation. So, when I look at your credentials, your pedigree, your experiences, I did a bit of a background check, and basically, I'm fascinated by how I would say ambidextrous you are, how you are able to literally, like pick on different expertise and different skill sets. So can you walk us through how your whole journey has been like, how where did you and how was it like growing up? Because my thinking is that probably how you were brought up has made you, the person you are today. So can you just share with us, how it all started, where you were born, where you grew up, right until you became a pharmacist and, being a Chevening scholar as well.
Okay. Wow, that's going to be a very long story. I'll try and compress it as much as possible. So,
Yes.
I was born in Takoradi, the western region of Ghana. Takoradi is the capital city of Ghana, but sorry, the capital city of the western region of Ghana. But I was born in a place called Ifiekuma Zongo. It's a Zongo, right? And it was pretty rough. But I mean, being born to two Christian parents were, always made to stay at home, right? I would say it had its own advantages and it had its own disadvantages as well, because up till now I don't know how to play football. I'm so shy, but yeah, that's it. So I grew up in Takrade, spent about 4 years in Ifiekuma Zongo. I am the last born of four children. So later you'd understand probably how maybe learning from my elder siblings was able to reduce the risk on my end in terms of the kind of decisions that I made, right? So after 4 years in the Western region, my dad was a customs officer. He's retired now. So we got transferred to the Volta region. So I stayed in the Volta region for 5 additional years. And along the line, I met a lot of people. And I would say that a lot of my progress also happened in the Volta region because as a student, right, I was the last born, all right, but I'd learned so much from my siblings, right? I was always making friends with people who were ahead of me. And also in my academics, I used to be very, very smart. I sometimes I think that maybe the smartness has reduced to a degree now, but when I was a kid, I used to
No.
be really smart. So I got skipped by I think 3 classes when I was a
Oh,
kid, right?
wow.
And that accelerated, yeah, that accelerated my growth and my academics and everything in primary school. So later we moved to the capital, and then I had to like start GHS. So that was when I also started integrating with different schools. So I attended about 3 different schools. I attended Grace Preparatory, attended Harrow in Abeka, and then finally I attended Hanson Road. So that was like my GHS life, right? And all in all, I was still learning from my siblings, right? Because at the point where I was in GHS, they were in high school. So there were a lot of things that the exposure that I was getting by interacting with them was really massive. And I think that sort of shaped the way I looked at things with regards to my career, what I wanted to study. Like I had tons of information to tap from. And so I got to uni. Um, before that, I wanted when I was a kid, I really wanted to be a cardiovascular surgeon. I don't know. It's just
Oh,
something that I
wow.
heard and I was running along with. Yeah. And back in high school, I realized that I did a couple of exploration. I realized that maybe being a doctor was not something that I wanted to do because I am like I love to be versatile, right? And I discovered that being a medical doctor meant that you were staying in one practice, even in school, right? You're going to do like 7 years of school, and
Yeah.
it was draining me. And although my dad wanted me to be a doctor, I discovered pharmacy because I developed this love for chemistry. And come to think of it,
Okay.
Form 2, that was like my second year. I had 2 Fs. I had an F in physics and I had an F in biology. I wasn't sitting up in
Wow.
school, right? In
Okay.
academy. And so I decided to sit up. And I think 2 years later, I was able to sweep the best student award in my class. It was one of my biggest
Wow.
wins in
Wow.
in high school. So that led to
Ha-
like my choices. Are you gonna say something?
Yeah, I was asking, like, I mean, I'm curious, like, how did you turn an F to the best student in the class? Like, can you just share, like,
Yeah,
what exactly did you do? How did it happen before you continue? Yeah, if
yeah.
you can
So
just step
sure,
in.
briefly, I think I got very complacent. The academic success was great right from first year, and I thought that okay, I could just breeze through. But second year, second semester, no, I mean second term because it was 3 terms. it gave me a very rude awakening. So when I had those two Fs, I decided to set up. I took extra classes. I decided to do dawn studies. I was doing night studies as well after prep. Like I really did work myself out academically, and the result did not show in the third year. Although, like I wasn't really striving to be the best student. Really, it was for me to just improve my grades and at least get an A for those courses. That was like my goal. And so in fourth year, it just happened that all the effort that I had put in right from second year, third year, culminated into that particular award. So it was the 80th anniversary for Accra Academy. And then I turned out to be the best student for Science too. So that was like one major
Wow.
comeback for me that I was really
Wow.
excited about. Yeah.
That's amazing. That's
Then
amazing. So from there, like so that's
yeah.
what was that the
Really
point
amazing.
where you discovered your, let's say, affinity for chemistry, like transitioning from the SHS to the university?
Yes. So I have this teacher. He's late. He's called Minty. May so rest in peace. But I always bless him. Like he made me discover myself. It wasn't just me. A couple of other young men who were in my class. Right. He made us discover ourselves really well, and he made me fall in love with chemistry a lot. So when I was going to uni, my mind was I need to do something that blended chemistry with health, right? And that
Okay,
was
okay.
what brought me to pharmacy as a program. Yes. So it
Mm,
was
mm.
pharmacy, biochemistry, and I think biomedical engineering. I had to choose all those other courses just to, fulfill the choices on the forms. But I was really focused on breaking into pharmacy, right? And what I thought pharmacy wasn't really what it was. Actually, to my disappointment, when I went into first year in uni, my dad wanted me to
Oh,
do medicine.
really?
I mentioned earlier, but
Yeah.
but I happened to fill the Legon forms, University of Ghana forms on my own. So I
Okay.
chose Bachelor of Pharmacy. Right? Although he was the
Okay.
sponsor, I decided to choose Bachelor of Pharmacy. And I had my mom's blessing. So I just went ahead with it, and I got into pharmacy to study Bachelor of Pharmacy in Legon, University of Ghana. So at University of Ghana as well, I was the type who would interact with a lot of things beyond pharmacy. I realized that a lot of pharmacy students wanted to stick to the books, and I didn't want to only do that. I wanted to explore other things. So I found myself at the point doing photography, learning social media, learning how to
Oh,
do
really?
branding, yeah, event organizing. Like I learned a lot of things by joining Echo House on campus, and it was one of the best things that really happened to me when I was in Legon. One other thing in Legon is that in Legon as well, I came across, or I encountered a big failure, right? In the third year, in my third year, I lost an election by a single vote. So I was really active in the University of Ghana Student Assembly.
Okay, okay.
Yeah. So I lost the election by a single vote. And that thing really wrecked me. But
Wow.
at the same time, I realized that I got complacent like I did in high school. Right. So it put me in check. It looks like at every major phase, I get this reality check and then I wake up, right? So it
Yeah.
put me in check. And for the particular year that I encountered that failure, I really went hard on myself, right? That was when I decided to even learn how to build sponsorship proposals. I started understanding the problems that the association had and all of that. So the next year, I ran for the position of president, and I won with 100 votes gap. It was really phenomenal for me
Oh,
because it was really
wow.
interesting for me. I went from 0 to 100 straight up, right? And or
Wow.
maybe negative
That's
one to 100
amazing.
because I lost by 1 point. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
exactly.
yeah, yeah.
Wow.
So that was life in uni, and also beyond joining Echo House and all of that, I also decided to work with this company called Sunnysphere. So they had a contract with the University of Ghana Pharmacy Students Association, and was basically being able to gather data around pharmacies, and that data was used to inform commercial decisions for big pharma companies. So that was how I got exposed to big pharma, and I told myself that after school I wanted to go into marketing, or maybe pharmaceutical marketing or commercial pharmacy. Whichever way I was gonna get in there, I
Okay.
mean, what I was gonna go for. So after school, I did exploration. I did academia because I was teaching. I was a teaching assistant at University of Ghana Medical School,
Okay.
the pharmacology department. I
Okay.
tried community
Okay.
pharmacy. I tried hospital pharmacy, and I realized that I really wanted to do marketing because it fits my personality and all of that. So I decided to apply for an internship, right? It was through my network basically that I landed this internship, mainly because I was a student leader back in school, and that got me into Merck. And I met you there, right? I remember in 2016 you visited the
Ah,
office in Ghana,
okay.
and I mean, it
Yes.
was really inspirational seeing you around. Yeah.
Yes.
So that first 6 months, I mean, it was not a paid internship, but I seized the opportunity anyway. And after 6 months,
Okay.
I landed my first role as a medical representative with Merck. So that was how I jump started my career in an area that I really loved, because I was willing to
Oh.
sacrifice everything that I was going to sacrifice to do that.
Mm.
And on the personal side, I
Mm.
still was, tapping in from my big sister. She's Paulina Anaman. I mean, she's a huge inspiration, and she drives me all the time. She's always fueling me.
Yeah, she's a she's a public figure. I know her very well because she's
Yeah,
like one
yeah,
of
yeah.
those extremely smart human beings I've ever
You
seen. I've
know,
never met
Uh-huh.
I've never met your sister, but like from afar, like she's something else.
like, I mean, anytime I look at her, I tell myself that,
Yeah,
hey, I
yeah.
have to do a
And and
lot,
and
right?
and jo-
I need to keep moving. Yeah, Prince, you're saying something.
yeah, can you hear me, Joel?
I can hear you.
Yeah, so before you go into let's before we get into the professional career
Okay.
bit, right? So I'm
Mhm.
very interested in if we dial back a little bit, the university days. There's this perception, and I usually perceive it as an erroneous perception that when you're in school, it means that there's nothing else you are able to do, and I
Yeah.
get a lot of students just literally waiting to finish school before they delve into the world of business or they get active. And like yourself, I was also quite active a little bit, right? To especially
Mhm.
what is the, let's say, the strategy, right, that you can share, maybe 2 points that you can share with people who are in school. What can they do? Like you mentioned internships and all that, but what can they do to get them academia, the walls of academia, such that once they leave school, get some experience and confidence that prepares them for the job market? Is there any points you can share?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. So I'll say that the university is a very perfect place to build your soft skills. Even if you're not building your technical skills, the university is one of the very, very good place to build your soft skills. And why I say this is that there are so many opportunities. They don't even have to be like formal work opportunities, right? There are so many opportunities that you can make good use of when you're in the university. One opportunity you can look at is student leadership. So your department, or even if you are looking at it on a bigger scale, the SRC, or you can take it from the dimension of your hall of residence, right? There are so many opportunities that you can engage yourself in if you seize these kind of avenues, right? And the worst thing, let's say, if you don't learn anything at all, one of the things that you are going to learn is public speaking, which is really important when it comes to your work. Like in the field of work, the moment you start working, public speaking is something that you would need. You don't need to address like 100 people for them to be a public, even if it's 2 people, 3 people, and you have to convince them on something. That's a way of public speaking, right? Using your public speaking skills. So I'll say that's those avenues, right? Whether you're occupying a leadership position in your hall of residence, or you're occupying a leadership position in the SRC or its affiliated organizations, or you're occupying a leadership position at your department. Now, that's just one part. The other part has got to do with being able to seize opportunities in these voluntary groups, right? These societies. So
Mm-hmm.
there's Inactus, there's ISEC, there's Echo House, there's Rotary. Like there are so many groups that if you're even able to participate as a member, I wasn't an executive in Echo House, by the way. I was just there as a member, but I got transformed in so many ways. I could confidently come up and organize events, and I knew that it was not going to fail. I could confidently come up and say, "Hey, let's do something and build a social media strategy," right? And it was going to sell. So there were things that I had to learn in that particular cycles as well, like circles as well, when it comes to these voluntary groups. And that's something that a lot of students can tap in from. Then the final one is the internship, like you being able to work with an organization, let's say in your area of interest. It does not even necessarily have to be something that you are studying, right? There was something that my chemistry teacher in level 100 advised me, and it's one of the decisions that I really regret. In the first year, he told me that, Joel, you don't have enough technical knowledge to do well in a community pharmacy. At
Okay.
this stage, focus on building a general skill. And
Okay.
these general skills could be anything around languages, anything around music, anything
Mm.
around programming. Looking back, it's one of the decisions that I didn't take and I regret so much, right? Because what these skills do is that they actually give you a great turf to explore and then meet people. If you're bilingual, the kind of people that you can engage with, right? It sort of doubles the networks that you can penetrate in, because language is a very great tool in being able to build relationships. So that's one thing that I missed out on. I could have learned programming as well, but it's also one of the things that I missed out on. And now you see, programming is like, even if you're not going to use it for like as a career, it makes your life easier because there are some things that you can do for yourself, right? Let's say if you have to do some data analysis, if you have to do some building a basic software for something, it's something that you can do on your own without requiring any assistance from anybody. So these general skills were things that I could have learned, but I didn't, and I missed that spot. So if you're a student and you're tuning in, I'll say that it's never too late, right? If you can get language, an additional language to maybe your English language, slap it on, whether it's French or Spanish or whatever it is, because it helps with your reach when it comes to networks. So I'll say that these are the things that as a student you can seize: leadership opportunities with the SRC, the Student Representative Council, or the Student Union, or its affiliate bodies; leadership opportunities in your department; leadership opportunities in your hall of residence, or joining these active groups like Inactus, ISEC. There are people who may not be tuning in just from Ghana. So there are lots of active groups that you can find on campus. So try and join one that falls in line with your interests, and that would help you in shaping your skills, your decision making, communication, public speaking, all of that. Then finally, you can look at the very traditional ones too as well, which is like getting an internship with an organization for a period and then shaping your technical and your soft skills. So I'll say those are the things that students can take advantage of when they are in school. I'm thinking that Prince may be off because a lot of network issues. Wow. Okay, so while Prince is off, I'll be reading some comments from the internet. So I see Theophilus from LinkedIn. Theophilus says, I totally agree. I was a vice president of Enactors. I did lots of public speaking, and I can tell you that it helped and still helping a lot. I even went before a class of 200 French speaking students and delivered, although I'm not fluent in French, but the confidence was just there because I did this by speaking severally as dining hall prefects and senior prefects to Enactus and co. So I mean, you would never go wrong. You would never go wrong when it comes to being able to join these active groups on campus. And there are so many. There are so many. It's that the possibilities are a lot. And for me, I believe in being able to create opportunities for yourself, right? Even if the systems are not working in your favor, you should be able to explore the opportunities and then create them for yourself. And one of the ways of creating these opportunities for yourself is being able to join these active groups. Yes, it may take a lot of time and energy because I remember back in school when I was part of Echo House. Uh, Echo House was seen as a party group, right? A lot of people thought that Echo House existed because it was just for parties. But that wasn't the case, right? If you really jump into Echo House and then you try and explore what they do, you realize that Echo House is a BTL marketing group. I don't know if now they do ATL, but BTL is basically below the line marketing group. Anything away from mass communication. So things with regards to branding, marketing via social media, via influencers, all of those things, right? And for me, it was really fascinating for me because I got to build all these skills that I was not going to find in the pharmacy lab. Um, Assuming like a pharmacy student has nothing to do with like using social media or being able to um, do photography, right? And these are things that I learned in Echo House. Like Echo House was really transformational for me because I got to learn how to build proposals for sponsorships. And I used this whilst, I mean, I lost the election in the third year. So by joining Echo House, I learned how to build sponsorship proposals. And the following year, when I became president, we set up like the first permanent sponsorship committee for the association. And at that time in 2016, we were able to raise about 6,600 US dollars, right, from dues and also from sponsorships. And we had a lot of sponsorships in kind as well. And all of these like was able to rejuvenate the association, right? And it was a learning curve for me because all the things that I had learned while engaging with Echo were things that I could actually bring into the picture as president of the association. And it all came together. Like you can imagine an association having a trailer for an event that they were organizing, right? And all of these things were a way of like being able to market things, position things for people. And I would say that they really played an important role into my transition when I started considering marketing as a career in the pharmaceutical space. So I'll go on to Facebook as well and take certain comments while I wait for Prince to come online. Let me just tap on that. I have my second screen here, so yep. So great. Okay. So I see Lois online. I see Irabna O2 as well, saying that the life of a pharmacy student with a sad face. Yes, I completely understand, right? Your first year, you'll be doing class from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. with multiple labs and all of that. On the other hand, if you decide to like break through that cycle and then do something that would help you stand out after school, that would really help you, right? And it all starts from being engaged in the best minimum is the University of Ghana Pharmacy Student Association. that's a place that you can start from. And so I mean, the same applies to any other person who's tuning in as a student, or even if you have a student relative at home, right? These are the kind of things that you can sort of relay to those people so that they are able to also take their career to the next level. I'm still gonna wait for Prince to join in. At least there are no comments on Instagram, so I am um, I'm very sure that everything is all right. All right. All right. So taking it to the next level, maybe while I'm waiting for Prince, right? You can send your comments in. If you have any questions, any submissions, you can send it in via the comment section, and we'll respond to them as we wait for Prince. Great. Check LinkedIn as well. Then the last place I have to check is YouTube. But sincere apologies for the break. It's raining here in Ghana, so I was facing network issues as well. I'm sure Prince. I'm not sure about his location, but he's pretty much maybe having some technical challenges, and that's why he's not able to tune in at the moment. But definitely, it's something that he is working on, I'm sure. So let's keep our fingers crossed on that. Let me check on YouTube as well. I'm really having fun. I feel like, I'm on radio or something. Okay, no comments on YouTube. And I see Prince's video loading. Yay, I'm excited. Can't be the one talking, all the time. Great. So no comments on YouTube, no comments on LinkedIn, no new comments actually on LinkedIn, and then no new comments on Facebook as well. But thank you all for tuning in. So I'll go ahead to talk about my career, how I started, right? So I mentioned briefly that I did a transition from, doing academia, being a teaching assistant, and realizing that that wasn't where I wanted to be. And I mean, don't think that your story is supposed to be the same as some others, right? If academia, I have a lot of friends who are in academia, right? And it's something that aligns with what they love. It gives them the kick. For me, it wasn't really giving me the kick, and I took the opportunity to, branch into commercial pharmacy. So I was there working with Sanisphere. So it was a contract job, as I mentioned earlier, doing the pharmaceutical market survey. And then my boss, who was the country manager of Merck by then, gave me a call. We had met when I was in school, mainly because he was the chairperson for Pharmaceutical Society of Ghana, Greater Accra region. So he got in touch with me, and then he mentioned that he needed someone who could run an internship at his end. Oh, Prince, you're back.
Yes. My internet messed up, so sorry about that. Thanks for holding the fort.
Yeah. So I sort of like swept through the social feeds. I checked LinkedIn. Theophilus made a very good submission about being part of Inactus and how that has shaped him in terms of public speaking. And I also checked Facebook. I didn't have much comments there, but I saw Lois and someone also crying about the life of a pharmacy student, right? Because it's a very, very fast-paced, packed environment.
Yes.
That's it. So really sympathizing with me or empathizing with me. And then I checked YouTube as well. There was no new comments. Oh, Lois.
Okay.
I can see Lois's
Pressure.
comment as well.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
what I was really talking about was I was trying to talk about how I did the transition into commercial pharmacy. But since you're back, you can take over so that I don't run ahead of
Yes,
the
yes,
script.
sure. No, 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 no problem, no problem. Thanks for holding the fort. So I mean, for me, like looking at the topic, at hand, right? So we have looked at, your background, how even at some point, like you said, you had two Fs and you had to, sit up and then get over that whole experience to become the best student and all that. So now we are kind of we are at a point where you are transitioning into commercial pharmacy, like you said. Like
Yeah.
for me, what is important is, and looking at the topic, this is in alignment with the topic. Have you always had this sense of, like, I want to be the best within the field that I find myself in, or you kind of go with the flow, or you have this laid down blueprints that, you kind of follow like a script? How, like, someone is watching this and is wondering, okay, I mean, Joel has gotten this far, right? But like, was it because he had planned it ahead of time, or like he's just attentive to the needs that are around him and he just adapts, right? So how did you position yourself within the space, right, in commercial pharmacy space? And I know that whilst you're a pharmacist, you're practicing, you are also looking at Chevening scholarship and all that. Like, this is why I'm
Yeah.
asking this, because for me, if I have a job as a pharmacist, that's it. I focus on pharmacy. But you looked at Chevening scholarship, applied, and still got it, right? So what is really the secret sauce?
Okay. Okay. The secret sauce. Interesting. I'll say, and this was something that I saw even at Merck. The value was curiosity, right? Actually, when I got there, that's how I understood that I had that thing in me. So I'll say that most of the things that I did were led by curiosity. I was really about, okay, what is happening here, right? What goes on outside this thing that I'm doing? So it was really all curiosity for me. And being curious sort of exposed me to a lot of things. I mean, sometimes looking back, I feel like there were a lot of things that I could have been exposed to more, but I mean, I made good use of the opportunity that was before me. So I was really super curious when it comes to things. So when I started off my career, so I was talking about how I jumped into commercial pharmacy. I was working with Sphere. It was a last contract, and I was in Kumasi. And the then country manager for Merck, he got in touch because we used to interact a lot, right? He was the chairperson for the Pharmaceutical Society of Ghana, Greater Accra region. And I was the Pharmacy Students Association president. So that's how we got in touch. And he called me and he was like, "Oh, I need someone. I need an intern, right? To join Merck. We used to have someone, but they've been able to secure a role and all of that. So if you have anybody in mind, let me know." So I told him that I was gonna get back to him. But right after jumping off the call, I told myself I want to explore commercial pharmacy, right? And this is like an opportunity for me. Why don't I seize it? So I called right back and I told him that I didn't know what it was going to be, but I just told him that I would want to take the opportunity. I didn't ask any details. It was just being curious and wanting to jump in there, right? And also it brought to my attention the need for networking and also like being able to stay active. The thing is, there's so much happening in the world. So when you are very active and people have you in mind and opportunities come, they reach out to the person that they can remember first. They wouldn't go to the bottom of the list, right? And that was
Yeah.
exactly what happened to me because I've always been the person who would plug people in. Oh, you need this. I plug people in. But this time around, I was like, I need to plug myself in, right? Sometimes I feel self, but I'm like that was an opportunity that I took, right? And
Yeah.
when I got into my role, I got still super curious. So although I was working as a medical representative, I got involved with the Pharmaceutical Society of Ghana deeply. And for me, this is one thing that I do. When I learn a particular skill or a particular concept, I try to apply it in a different jurisdiction. So I learned
Okay.
social media back in uni, but I applied the social media skills to the Pharmaceutical Society of Ghana because I saw a gap. We didn't have social media channels. And I put University of Ghana Pharmacy Student Association online with my team, right? We were able to buy
Okay.
in. We created our social media accounts with the website and all of that. Pharmaceutical Society of Ghana had a website, but they didn't have social media accounts. So I created that social media account way before our first annual general meeting, and it became very useful for the society. And that was how I was able to, gain access to the leadership of the society and very key members of the society. So I would say that being able to stay curious, but whatever you learn somewhere, you don't throw it away, but you try as much as possible to apply it in a different context where there's a gap, sort of helps you to stand out. So that was the work that I was doing with the Pharmaceutical Society of Ghana, helping with annual general meeting and promotion and all of that. And along the line too, I came across Hayford MedRx. So MedRx was an app, sort of. I mean, it's an app that
Yes,
helps
I
with.
know MedRx. Yeah.
Exactly, MedRx. So that was how come I came across Hayford as well. And I was also lending my own insights as a medical rep. I saw certain challenges on the field, and I saw how retail pharmacies and hospital pharmacies could, make good use of certain tools that would optimize their businesses. So that was the kind of work I was doing at MedRx, being able to provide those kind of advisory services. So across that 3.5 years, when I worked with Merck, and later after Merck's acquisition, I worked with Procter and Gamble. I did all these voluntary things, right? Things that were not on my job description. And why I'm hammering on this really is that when I decided to apply for the Chevening scholarship, it was not the things that I achieved in my main job description that got me there. They were actually the voluntary things that I did
Okay.
that got me there. So implementing a mentorship program because I knew how I was lost after school. Pharmacy is a very big TEF. Like you can play in different areas, right? And I realized that people did not have that knowledge to sort of bridge that gap. So going through that situation, I came back with a team and also with the country manager of Merck, who's now my mentor, right? We're able to implement that as a project at University of Ghana, which was successful anyway. And all of these things kind of fed into my transition, like when I was transitioning into school again for my master's. And I would say that
Okay.
they were not planned, really, interestingly enough, they were not planned. I had this mental idea of wanting to build a global career, right? So any opportunity that I could seize to get there was something I was going to do. And I think in 2019, I just felt like the change was here and I had to change, right? So that was when I explored. I came across the Chevening scholarship. In fact, that year I had a lot of rejections, and I actually reached out to you about the Atlantic Dialogue Emerging Leaders program,
Yeah.
right? Which I didn't get in, but that year really showed me a lot of resilience. And I would say that the key thing that I learned from that was being able to manage my expectations. So wrapping all of these up, the things that I did outside my work, and also things that I was really passionate about, which is like people empowerment, were the things that really fed into my successes on my Chevening application. And that helped me to secure the scholarship, the £40,000 scholarship, because I don't know where I was going to take that money from. I wasn't going to ask my dad. So that was just a unique opportunity for me to upskill and transition into tech. So I would say, like, have I answered the question that you asked, or I've gone overboard? I'd want to confirm. Oops, the network is tripping again. So I would go back to my, my previous role of being able to balance things, juggling things around. All right. Are there any comments? Let me just check if there are any comments on here. Yeah, so I have a comment from Intongwe. Oh, you're back, Prince. So he says great perspective from Joel. Most young people don't understand that they could start building their professional profile and brand while still in school and start seeking opportunities for internships and volunteering. This is the mindset we need to instill in our fellow youth. Yep. I completely agree with that because you would have to create the opportunities for yourself if they are not available, right? You have to create those opportunities. So, getting back to the roll up to my Chevening scholarship, there were other things that in my job I decided to pick on. So we were a very small team of 4 people and 4 salespeople, and because it was a small team, we still had to achieve our business objectives. Most of us had to pick up like additional roles to what we did, our main job as salespeople or marketing people. And so taking on that role, I mean, you had the option not to take on a role, right? But for me, I decided to take on a role as a regulatory person. And I love regulatory because I could engage with stakeholders. I could also, mostly these engagements were around being able to eliminate bottlenecks when it comes to regulatory work. So those were, I mean, it was one of the major things that I also included. Actually, I never included anything, well, not much. It was just a single paragraph about what I do, my main job. But really, it was about the regulatory add-on thing that I did because I made a major win for the team when I pursued those regulatory affairs and duties, and also my work with MedRx and my work with the Pharmaceutical Society of Ghana. I sort of wrapped all of that in to build a very good story when it comes to when it came to the Chevening scholarship, and it was really phenomenal for me. Prince, you're back.
Yes,
So I
yes.
was uh, going through the Chevening scholarship and all of that, like
Yeah.
how I was able to like get the information and then piece them out into a story. So over to you.
Yeah. Yeah. So Joel, I mean, my interest is career wheel, right? And can you tell us, for example, someone is watching this, right? So tell us how you started Career Wheel, and if someone is watching, what
Okay.
are the top? What are
Mhm.
your top pointers for a good CV or resume? I mean, we've looked at your resume. You've literally described your resume to us, but can you tell us
Mhm.
like what necessitated the need to start Career Wheel? And if someone is watching,
Okay.
what would be your top advice for the person to look out for in preparing a good resume or CV?
Okay. So I've said a story on LinkedIn before. I typed it out, but the first CV that I built was literally a copy and paste. Right. I took someone's CV, I copied, pasted mine, I submitted it for the job. I got the job not because of the CV, but because of the position that I had in the association and the kind of influence that I had and then the impact that I had delivered. So it was really clear. I got a chance to move into the interview phase. Now, after school, I realized that my CV was not the best. And it wasn't just me, it was me and then my friends, right? And what even made it very real to me was that my sister was at University of Oxford by then. So she shared her CV structure with me, and I told myself I was joking because the structure had key details, it was well formatted, and again, that's sparked the whole curiosity thing again for me because I feel like how do I go through 4 years of school and we're literally not even chased by this, right? Like it was about when you go to the careers and guidance center, it was about getting an internship letter, one of those things. But we really never had like a CV clinic, all of that. So I decided to take it upon myself to do the learning. And for people who are close to me, they know that I love experimenting. So it's more like if I learn something, I have to put it to use to make sure that it's really working, because I don't want to be stuck in the theory phase.
Yeah.
And that was how my pro bono CV writing service came about, right? It was just pro bono. And I had some very early successes. Some people that I helped with their CVs got into the commercial pharmacy space even before I got into, right? And sometimes you may feel like, oh, that's really disheartening. But for me, it was that joy for me that wow, what I'm learning really is working, right? What I learned and what I'm giving to others is really working. So that was my joy. And eventually my time came for me to also get my job, my first job offer. So after that, I did a lot of experimentation. I've never sat in a CV clinic. It's been more of reading online, picking the ideas, putting it in. So if I show you my CV transformation phases, you realize that it's gone through several tests. One that had no bullets, one that had no professional summary. Like there were a lot of tests back and forth. And I was able to get beyond me getting a job. I was able to get two other people into Sanofi. So one person got into Sanofi, one person got into Denk, and it kept pushing me. But it got to a point where I realized that what I was doing was less of just CV writing and more of mindset orientation. And I also realized that people were not
Okay.
they were not committed to the whole process. So I would invest a lot of hours, but the people that you were helping or the people that I was helping were not really sticking to it, right? They wouldn't show up for meetings, they would give you some excuses. So I told myself that, hey, maybe it's time to sort of put a price on this and then reduce the pressure on myself because I have a main job. This is not even paying, right? And if I'm going to put a price on it, then I'm going to add more value beyond just writing CV. So it started as productivity optimizer. That was the name that I started with. And the idea was that
I remember
let's
that name. Yeah.
I mean, it was just one December. It was December 2019. That year I had faced a lot of things, like the rejections had come in and all of that. And I think COVID had started, but it wasn't really, it wasn't a thing for Africans. We thought it was so far away. And so I just designed a logo. I saw a graphic designer, I designed a logo, and then I opened a Twitter account in March 2020. And then I realized that people really wanted the service, right? They wanted that whole service of being able to not just write the resume. The
Yeah.
resume is like a byproduct, but being able to sit down and understand that whatever line on my job description is tied into some organizational success. So I need to frame myself in that way. If I'm an admin assistant, if I'm a salesperson, if I'm an executive, I should be able to understand the kind of value that I'm bringing to the business so that my work does not look really routine. So that was like how Productivity Optimizer came about. And during my master's, I was able to rebrand it to Career with my team. So in terms of the CV, as you mentioned, when it comes to the CV hack, what I would say is that I realized a lot of people, and I used to be in that trap, that CVs is all about structures, right? Having a template and filling it in. But I realized that it goes beyond the structure to the content and then the context of your CV. So why do I say content? Content relates to, obviously the things that you've done, you are really proud of it and you have all of that documented. But then the context relates to if you have those content on your CV, whoever you are selling yourself to, does it speak to what they need? And that is why people say, tailor your CV, tailor your CV, tailor your CV. The reason is that if you go to town to say buy an iPhone and someone keeps pushing a Samsung or a Techno down your throat, which is a different operating system. It may have all the nice features, but a different operating system, and it's not what you want. There's a likelihood that you wouldn't get that phone, right? And it's the same thing when it comes to CVs. If you are selling yourself to someone, you need to make the work easier. You need to show yourself, the side of you that speaks to whatever they need, right? So the content, the context really matters. Now I'll dive into maybe how to craft an effective resume. I'll zoom in more on the content because I've seen that is where a lot of people have challenges with. So there's this framework that we use at Career Wheel. We call it the masks framework. So masks as in MASKS, masks framework. And what we use the masks framework for is to vet the quality of the bullets that we are putting together for a particular client when it comes to their work experience section. So the first M is metrics. So numbers, right? Metrics, being able to add numbers to things. Because when you're able to add numbers to the things that you do, it sort of like gives a lot of clarity, and it also gives some form of objective meaning to whatever you are presenting. If I tell you that I have a lot of money, I'm rich, and someone else tells you that they have $1 million in their account and they are rich, who do you tend to believe more, or which of the statement becomes very tangible? Obviously, if I show you my bank account and my bank account says a lot of money, and another person shows their bank account and it has $1 million with a lot of zeros, you're going to, be more drawn to the person with the numbers, because numbers help to create that level of objectivity. So the metrics is one key thing, right? The mass framework, M for metrics. And metrics also connect to results, business results. So let's say you increased sales by a particular percentage, or you reduce delays by a particular percentage. Using the numbers helps us to know the degree of value that you brought to the organization. So numbers are very important. And one thing about numbers or the metrics is that you can also add timelines to it. So let's say you were able to increase the number of customers served, right, in a period of maybe 3 months. That is you adding some sort of timeline to whatever you do or whatever you did. And the reason why you normally would add timelines to results is that you want to show efficiency. If someone brings in $1 million in, let's say, 1 year, and another person brings in $1 million in 1 month, you would definitely go for the one who brought it in 1 month, assuming that all of them, that the rule is the same, right? The environment they're operating in is the same. You would definitely go for the one bringing in $1 million in 1 month because they are working faster and they are being efficient. So when it comes to the results, you should be able to represent some form of timeline where necessary. I'll go to the next one, which is action words. So what action words? So as I said, the mass framework, I've spoken about M, which is metric related to the results. The A is action words. So action words help to make your bullet or whatever you're putting on your CV heavy and more action driven than passive. So maybe you have some people writing on their CV responsible for XYZ, did XYZ. When you use that language, it does not sound like it's really active. It's more like, okay, you're laid back. That's how it looks like, right? It looks like someone who's really laid back and chilling in their role, not doing much, right? Action words sort of add some power to the bullet. So instead of maybe saying responsible for, if you say you oversee or you oversaw this particular activity, right? Or you spearheaded, right? Or you managed, or you led. Those are like really heavy words, because you're telling me that you manage something, comparing that to responsible for, it puts you in two different lights, right?
Yes.
So action words are key. And interestingly enough, when you Google action words for resumes, you would find that you can try Googling, you'd have a lot of resources from different websites, exposing you to different action words. So the A in the Max framework is action words, right? Then the next one is strategy. So S for strategy. So the strategy is like the how behind whatever you did. So maybe if you say you increased sales by 50%, you don't just leave it there. Give us a brief reason about how you were able to achieve that. Did you maybe increase prospecting, or did you maybe ventured into a new territory? Right? Those are the hows, like the big idea behind that major achievement. So the strategy being S in the Max framework represents that, the how, and never leave it out. Then the K now comes to the context part of things that I was saying, keywords. So every industry, every role, they do have keywords. For
Yeah.
instance, a supply chain professional, right? Let me give you an example. One thing I know from supply chain is it's very old, but I don't know if it's still in practice. But FIFO, LIFO, first in, first out.
Yes.
You
Yes.
know,
First
those
out. Yeah. Last in. Yeah.
last in, first out, right? Um,
Yeah.
if this is communicating on his CV, if he used FIFO LIFO as a strategy, he needs to highlight that particular term, because the person reading the CV then understands that, okay, this person understands these terminologies, or this person understands these frameworks that are used in this particular industry, or they have this particular skill. So keywords really cut across qualities, frameworks, skills, terminologies that are related to a particular industry, right? That are related to a particular industry. So me being, maybe if I was a community pharmacist, a pharmacist, right? I can maybe take something like patient counseling. That is a keyword, but that does not necessarily translate into my role as a commercial pharmacist. And even
Yeah.
these are roles within one industry, right? It's always important to include keywords in your resume bullets. And then the last one is stakeholders, which I think most people leave out. So whilst you're working in your role, you interface with people. You can interface with colleagues, you can interface with direct reports, you can interface with people above, like C-level executive or mid-management level, whatever it is. Why it's important to include that in your bullet. I mean, it's not going to be for all the bullets, but why it's important to be including this in your bullet is that whoever is reading understands that, okay, this person is able to engage on this level, C level, they're able to engage with their peers, they're able to engage with their direct reports, right? So that is when the keyword of collaboration comes in. So when you say you collaborated with cross-functional teams and C-level executives, then it tells us that, okay, you're working with teams that have different skill sets, and you're also working with people high up. So if whatever role you're coming to occupy involves engaging these people, then you are someone who would be a good fit for the role. The interview would really give them details whether you did it or not. And one thing I tell people not to do is to lie on your CV. It's to come back at you. So never, never lie on your CV. It has an outlook on even how you appear confidently in your interview, and even after getting the role, right? It plays a key role in how you perform on the job. So never lie on your CV. So I would say that these five structures, or let me say five key things: metrics, action words, strategy, keywords, and then stakeholders, are very key for building a very solid resume bullet. Now, you might be wondering, how should a bullet look like, right? And
Exactly. Yeah.
Google has this they have this framework that they use, which is very simple. You achieved X by doing Y using Z, right? And the easiest way to do this is you look at the result or the value that you delivered. So if maybe you increased number of customers, like customer base, or maybe you increased traffic on a website, right? You can say that, okay, you increased traffic or you boosted traffic by X percent, where X is the number. So maybe 100%, that's fine, right? That is your achieved X by doing what? That's a strategy bit that I mentioned. So what did you do? Maybe you implemented some SEO strategy, SEO search engine optimization, or you brought in influencers, right? Doing influencer engagement to drive traffic to the website. That is your how, right? Then
Yeah.
you can go into the using part. So the using part comes in if you use a particular skill or a framework. So let's say in doing this, you use a software called maybe SEMrush, which is a software for SEM, SEO, and all of that. Then you can say that you boosted page traffic, website traffic by maybe 100% by leveraging influencer marketing, right?
Okay.
Using
Yeah.
SEMrush and several other tools. So that sort of comes together. I mean, this is off the bat, but when you put down the draft that way, you now have to check for, okay, how coherent is this resume bullet? Does it really, make a lot of sense? Does it communicate what I want to communicate to the recruiter or the hiring manager? That is the first thing. And beyond that, too, you check against the mass framework. Does this thing have a metric? Does it have the keyword? Does it have action word? Does it have strategy? Does it have stakeholders? So now, when you're able to bundle everything up, then you have your final resume bullet sitting there looking at you and looking at the recruiter
Mm.
and also at the hiring manager. So
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
I would say that that is the major chunk and when it comes to resume writing, because I realize that people are not able to connect what they do at work to results. And one thing that I would finally share on the resume content is using the 5 whys, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's a framework that is used to really drill deep into the reasons behind certain actions. And recently, I used this for a client as well. So she's an admin assistant. She manages. She's a business manager, right? And then she manages this co-working space. And on her CV, she had this statement as she reports expenses using some apps, right? Xerox and some other apps, right? And that helps her with financial reporting. So I went on to ask her, why do you do the financial reporting? That was the first layer of the why. I mean, I didn't have to ask 5 whys, but the first why was, why do you do the financial reporting? And then she
Mm-hmm.
mentioned that financial reporting, it helps us to track our expenses and all of that. So I asked her, why do you want to track the expenses? There's a reason. If there was no reason, you wouldn't bother. And then she goes like, okay, when we track the expenses, we know what is sucking out more money, and we know where our money like is really getting invested into, and the expenses really get to understand our expenditure. So I asked her, why do you want to understand your expenditure? And then she went further to say that, well, if we are spending too much money somewhere, we can redirect that fund, or we can cut down on it, or we can negotiate for something, right? And I asked the last why, that why would you want to do that? And she was like, well, maybe that would help the business go forward. And I told her that is what you should be representing on your CV. That is where your result is. It's under 4 layers of whys, right? So you tracking and analyzing expenses is one. But after tracking and analyzing the expenses, what did you do with it? Right? And then we drill deep, and then she mentioned that when it comes to electricity, they implemented the strategy, they turn all lights out and all of that when they are done, I mean, in the office. And that was able to reduce their electricity expenditure by 500 Ghana cedis. I told her to note it down. Then she mentioned something around the security. They had a security man. The person was not really performing. They literally have
Mm-hmm.
a job somewhere. They come and sleep right on site. So she decided to rather
Mm.
bring insurance package instead of the security person. So now they have insured the facility, and the insurance package was actually lesser than the cost of what they were giving to the security person. So she made
Oh
savings
wow.
there. Yeah. And then the last one, I think the last one was something right about cost. So then what we decided to do was that, okay, now you are making this savings in a month, multiply it by 12, that gives you an idea of your annual savings, right? And that is the value that you are bringing to the business, or the value that you've brought to the business. And we realized that she's saving the business 20,000 Ghana cedis every year just by
Wow.
tracking and analyzing these reports. So, what is going to look like on your CV is the result saved 20,000 Ghana cedis annually. How? By tracking and analyzing company expenditure and implementing cost optimization strategies, right? Then, what did you use to do the tracking? Using Microsoft Excel and Xerox. You have your bullets.
Mm.
So, the
Yeah.
power of Firefly is very important. Cut deep
Yeah.
into your role and understand why that particular line of work exists, and you'd understand the value that you are adding to the business, together with the math framework and also the Google achieved X by doing Y using sets. So I think
Yeah.
I would leave the resume part there. If there's anything that you need
Yeah.
to add,
Yeah.
I've not added.
Yeah. No, I think you've done a solid job here. So because of time we and the internet
Yeah.
connectivity issues,
Mhm.
I would ask my final question, right? So
Yeah.
this is towards someone who is watching us, who is working.
Mhm.
The person is already working. And
Mhm.
in every work, you try to move from one level to the other. And this is
Yeah.
what we term as promotion. How
Mhm.
does one position themselves within the organization or the team to be,
Mhm.
one, eligible for promotion, and two, to be
Mhm.
visible for promotion? So there are
Okay.
people who are eligible but they are not visible,
Visible.
right? And there are sometimes also people who are visible but they are not eligible. However, the
Eligible. Yes.
visible guys tend to get the roles because either they
Yes.
are well positioned or well networked and
Uh-huh.
all that. So what
Uh-huh.
what is your advice for someone watching who wants to grow their career within the organization through some form of promotion and development?
Yeah. 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 I mean, that's a very, very important should I say question, right? A lot of people most often will think that when you deliver on your job, you should get promoted. But really and truly, that's not what happens in
Yeah.
reality, right? And it's a lot of things. Getting ahead is a mixture of being able to perform in your role and also organizational politics. And politics is not a bad thing as we've labeled it, right? Politics is actually things that have got to do with human relations in a particular space. You can look at the definition of politics later, but that it boils down to that, right? So being able to operate in such a way that you are visible, the visibility bit is the politics part of the equation. And then the performance bit is also the second part of the equation. Now, there's another bit too that you need to understand, which is the organization and its constraints. So
Okay.
you need to really understand how your organization rewards people, whether it's promotions. I mean, the framework is the same for raises as well, whether it's promotions or raises. You need to understand how your organization rewards people. The organizations that have a top bottom approach to things. So everything that the leadership wants is what you have to do. They push it down to you, right? And then there are organizations that do a bottom up approach. So for them, it's really anything that will drive the business ahead, right? If you are able to come up with something that gets the business ahead and you push it and it gets implemented and they see the result, then fantastic. You get that too as well. So it's very important to understand which type of organization you are in. If you're an organization that's in a top bottom approach thing, and then you are using another strategy of coming up with your own things, although they are smart, although they are brilliant, you may not be able to get to wherever you want to get to, mainly because that's how the organization is structured. So being able to map out that bit of things also helps. And there's also the
Mm.
bit about your manager. Your manager plays a very important role in your promotion or in your career progression. So choose your managers wisely. And then there was this article that I read that mentioned something about people staying in their jobs not because of the companies, but because of their managers, right?
Yes.
But because of their manager. So your manager has
Yes.
an influence on you because your manager does the advocacy at her level or his level. So if you don't have someone who will do the advocacy for you, right, then that's really a huge red flag. Don't think that so far as you're executing, it would get you there. That person becomes an antagonist to your progress. In
Exactly.
very raw language, the person becomes an antagonist to your progress. And then there's also the bit your manager's effort is never enough, right? There's also the bit about getting a sponsor within the organization. So these are
Yes.
people who are above your manager, right? They're above your manager's level. And sometimes they may not necessarily be in the organization. They could be people who have influence in the organization, but they do not have any presence in the organization, mainly because maybe they've worked in the organization before and they have
Yeah.
influence on the people that they managed years ago,
Yeah.
right? Because the person, trust me, like if you have a very good manager, right, and the manager leaves you and you even go on a different path, you always remember that person. And
Exactly.
I saw Princess post on Volca. Volca was Princess manager.
Yeah, Foka. Yeah.
He's an amazing person, right? He's an amazing
Yes.
person even within that short period. So that's one key thing that you have to know, that your manager also plays a very core role, and your sponsor also plays a very core role in your progression. So if you have a sponsor, right, whether in the organization or outside the organization, who will be able to say things in rooms that you don't have presence in, sometimes rooms that your manager does not even have presence in, then it goes a long way. And how you build, at least in the within the organization, how you build these relationships is by staying visible, right? So there's a project that comes outside your scope of work. It's not your job description. The Monday day millennial will tell you, hey, that's what I'm paid for this and that and that. So that's what I'm sticking to. But if you really understand the structure and the politics of organizations, you realize that there are some things that you get to do outside your job descriptions. And those are the things that tend to make you more visible, because then everybody has a job description, but not everybody works outside their job description. So if you want to really be visible, stay visible, taking things on like projects that are way outside your scope of work, running initiatives, right? Regularly having conversations with leadership when there's maybe a town hall meeting or something, or there's a meeting, there's a business meeting, you are able to chime in with your suggestions. All these things get people to see you. And as I mentioned the last time, as I mentioned about 30 minutes ago, right? I mentioned that normally when your name is the name that pops up first, you are the one who gets to enjoy the icing on the cake, right? Or the cake itself, whatever it is. But so far as you are maintaining that visibility and you are also able to deliver in your role, it gives you that double approach towards things. Assuming all things are equal, your organization rewards hard work, rewards performance, and you're able to stay visible, able to stay effective in your role in terms of performance. Then, when you have these two things, you are able to sort of accelerate career growth when it comes to promotions or when it comes to raises. So if you do your analysis, right? If you do analysis and then you realize that this organization does not reward hard work or efforts, right, and results like it should, your manager is not there to speak for you, and you don't even have a sponsor in the organization, then you should be thinking about moving on to your next challenge, because growing in such an organization is going to be pretty tough. And one thing that I would chip in is that you can sort of reduce the risk of this when you are interviewing for a role. And the kind of questions you'll be asking will be, you'll be asking the manager will be, when last did someone on your team get promoted? What qualities did they show? That gives you an idea about what they are looking for, right, when it comes to promotions, right? And also gives you an idea about whether the manager sort of goes ahead to advocate for people. Because if there has not been any promotion in the past 2 3 years or 4 years, then it tells you how stagnant you would be in that particular role, right? And things around
Yeah.
what's the best performer on your team like, what qualities do they have, and understanding how you'll be able to show those qualities when you get into the role also gives you an idea about it. And generally, speaking to people in the roles, I mean, in the company, in the roles that you are sort of interested in, and understanding the kind of progression that occurs in there would there are cases where you can even go on LinkedIn and look at the people's roles, like the period within which they've occupied a particular role. If you go in there and then you see one role staying there for about 4 or 5 years, no progression, then it gives you an idea about how the progression is likely going to be in that role. So those are like the things that you can use to sort of reduce the risk, not eliminate it, but reduce the risk when you are trying to get into a new organization. You can approach it more proactively that way.
Yeah, yeah, and that's a very solid point, Joel. So for me, I think the summary of the discussion on formidable career path, you've captured it quite succinctly, right? So the first aspect that comes to
Yeah.
mind has been, and from your experience, you are very adaptable, right? So you are kind of, that self-awareness is crucial, and that's what I've
Yeah.
seen with your personal career path, that you need to be
Mm-hmm.
self-aware, right? If you are working in an industry where there's a new technology that is disrupting that industry, it behoves on you
Mm-hmm.
as an individual to, one, investigate further and see if you can acquire certain relevant skills
Mm-hmm.
within this
Yeah.
emergent technology. Number two is
Yeah.
very crucial. You mentioned about the CV, where you gave us a good framework, the Max framework that you shared with us. So you are looking at
Mm-hmm.
ensuring that you don't just put in bullet points, right? Responsible
Yeah.
for the XYZ.
Uh-huh.
No, you need to use
Uh-huh.
action words. You need to ensure that
Yeah.
everything you're mentioning is measurable and specify the time
Mm-hmm.
frame. And if there are key tools or models that you use, you need to state that. And you also mentioned about the stakeholders, right? So if you're communicating
Mm-hmm.
directly with a director or C-level, whatever it is, you need to capture. And the last bit
Yeah.
that I've learned, and these are the things I've learned, has got to do with if you're looking for a promotion or a raise. You talked about being visible, being competent as well, and finding
So.
some good word with your manager and a sponsor within the
Mm-hmm.
organization. So if you're
Yep.
watching this, it's not enough to say that I'm good at what I do and I'm not getting a promotion. To be honest,
Mm-hmm.
you would remain there if you're not visible, if you don't
Mm-hmm.
align with the right people within the organization, if you don't
Mm-hmm.
also study the culture of the organization. Do they
Mm-hmm.
reward for people who do overtime? Are there
Mm-hmm.
rewards for people who bring up innovative, outside the box
Mm-hmm.
ideas and so forth? So that really has been the three pillars that I'm taking home personally from the discussion.
Yeah.
So if you're watching us and you want to get in touch with Joel, I'm going to put his email address on the screen right now. So you can send Joel an email, and his team, of course, an email at askmycareerwheel.com. They also have a website, www.mycareerwheel.com. You can also find them on Twitter as well. They are very active at My Career Wheel on Twitter as well. Joel, what would be your final words in the next 30 seconds, and then we can wrap up?
Yeah. Yeah. Wait, before I go on to the final words, I just wanted to say that we are also like sort of building a tool that helps professionals sort of like take note of their career journeys. So just the one side of things, which is like knowing that you're competent, right? And understanding the value that you're bringing to the organization. So we are trying to build this very interactive platform that helps you to see that. We are calling it Mande, Mande,
Mandy.
Mande.
Yeah,
Yeah, Mande.
Mandy. Yes.
Uh, that you can join our wait list. It's just like the website, www. Let's knock that off and replace that with Mande. So Mande
Okay.
dot
Okay.
mycareerwheel.com. So Mande
Okay.
dot mycareerwheel.com. And you'll be able to join our wait
Mm.
list. You get updates, exclusive updates on what we are building and how far we've gone. We are hoping to release that by July, so do watch out for it. And on to my final words. I would say that I always say this, that normally I don't do final words. You can always like recap on the video, right? But the main thing is that as we move from here, it's just about 12% of people watching this video would go and apply all the principles that are learned. So make sure you are part of the 12%. I've seen it several times. And I mean, this is actually research back from the Harvard Business Review. About 12% of people who learn things through these systems would end up, going on to really apply it. So I'm hoping that at least we'll be able to beat the 12% mark. But for you watching, at least make sure that you are within that 12% sample space. Thank you very much, Prince, for having me on this call. I do appreciate it. Just a slight modification. So
Yeah.
the www has to go off. It's just mande.mycareerview.com.
Okay, so it's just Mande. Okay, I'll do that. No
The www has to go off. But that's
Yes.
really supportive. Thank you so much, Prince.
Okay, no problem, no problem.
For
Okay,
hosting
so
me
I
and
have
then
it.
exposing me to your audience.
Yes, for sure. So thank you very much. It's been a great time. We had a few technical issues, but we are entrepreneurs. We never give up. So
Yes.
I would like to say a big thank you to you, Joel, for your patience and also for your time, because I know you're a busy person. And for you watching, thank you so much for being part of the discussion today, and those who sent in your questions and your comments. Thank you so much for staying with us for People Who Inspire. And next week, I have another guest already prepped and prepared for the session. So please make a date with me and my guest again next week. So thank you, and I'll see you all
Thank
in the
you.
next episode.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
Prince. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Bye-bye.